What is up, everybody? Back again with another video. So I really wanted to stay away from talking about this. That's why I haven't made many videos about talking about or even discussing, the facts that rates are bad, gas prices are high, and all this other stuff like that. Because the fact of the matter is, right? So let's just break it down and let's get into this, okay? So the fact of the matter is the way and the price of the rates right now, yeah, they're bad, but historically they've been kind of low for a long time. Only time these rates came back up to the peak point is when everybody wanted to start getting into the trucking business, because during the pandemic, prices got pretty high. Fuel prices went down and dipped a little bit, and it was a margin that people was making money hand over fist. And I would say this was probably like the end of 2019, and at some points in 2020, and then the pandemic came and we all was shut down, all these different things. But it was like damn near a year window where the money in trucking was high for a period of time, for I would say a good solid year. And before that, prices was pretty decent and consistent, and the fuel prices was down. So I took a look back in 2019 when I first got my truck, and I even dug a little further before that when I was a lease operator for Rosedale. Fuel was like $2 a gallon, $2.50, I would say. Let's say $2.50 a gallon. And then when I got my truck in 2019, early 2019, fuel prices was kind of like in the threes for diesel, $3 a gallon or so for diesel. Now, I know this can be different and it fluctuated in different areas, but I'm only talking about my area. I run southeast. I do out and backs. So before that, I never ran north. I haven't ran north or over the road or ran over to the West Coast since my CR England days, all right? So I did my over the road. So I would say I have so much to say about this particular topic. I can't really break it down into segments. So this video is going to be a little bit all over the place as I get my thoughts together and try to relay this information as much as I'm trying to say. So but let's go back to 2019 when I first got my truck, and when the rates was kind of decent and the fuel was kind of at a decent price to where that it was a good margin to make money. Now, with that being said, we had a lot of people on the internet, especially TikTok and all this stuff, saying they're making $5,000, $10,000. They're making all this money per load, per week, all this different stuff, right? So we had people, displaying how they're making all this money per day. We had people talking about all the money they're making per week. People are making $15,000, $20,000 a month. All these expectations were so high, it triggered everyone that had some type of entrepreneurial spirit to be like, you know what, I'm about to dive out there, purchase my first truck, and I'm just about to go for it. Now that part came, the purchase of the truck thing came even at its highest peaks. Even when trucks went up to after the pandemic and all of these things, the same truck that I purchased in 2019 for about $50,000 was $100,000, $80,000, $70,000 if you were lucky. People was still finding a way to purchase these trucks because the margin was so high and everyone was bragging about how much money they was making in the trucking industry. But in reality, if you go back to when I first bought my truck, or even further back in 2018 when I started trying out the lease programs and stuff like that, when diesel prices were like $2.50 a gallon and stuff like that, the margins was pretty consistent then. Whatever happened to making $2,000 a week being good money? Whatever happened to $3,000, you're making real good money? What happened to making $1,500, $1,800 a week? That was good money. You were able to take care of your family, pay your bills, still have money left over to save for retirement or whatever the case may be, and also have disposable money to invest. So before I go even further on that point, like if you're needing to start out with any more than that, then you're living beyond your means. And I want to say that just because if you're making enough money, enough disposable income to use to invest in assets that can make you money, that's how you would scale further. Everyone don't desire to be millionaires, but if you do, you can take this type of money, $70,000, $80,000, $100,000 a year. You should be able to carve out enough money, invest in assets, which is purchasing another truck or real estate or whatever it is you want to get into, whatever business you want to get into, to scale up to the next level, to help yourself be more successful, to bring in more income a month. But to say with this narrative that once the pandemic was over and we now fast forward to points where people are talking about the rates are ultra low and the fuel is high and they can't feed their families and they can't pay their truck payments and stuff like that, you know, because people started living outside of their means and everything like that. Now we're talking about we need $7,000 a week, $8,000 a week to live, because when we were making $6,000, $7,000 a week consistently, because the rates were really, really good because of the inflation or whatever the words you want to use to call or describe the way the rates in the trucking market was at the moment for that particular moment. And it wasn't that way for a long period of time. I would say 9 to 12 months. It was really good. People was getting money hands over fists in trucking, and everybody wanted to start a new authority. Everybody started authorities, and everybody wanted to jump into the business because the money was great, right? But believe it or not, if you position yourself in this business, enter into the business the correct way, you still can make a lot of money in this industry. But you have to start somewhere and you have to scale your business from point A to point B. You have to keep that money coming in consistently by any means necessary. So talk about, oh yeah, people are running cheap freight. Freight has never been people making $9 a mile, right? It has never been consistently that. So now that the rates are down and people were making $3 to $4 a mile, oh, that's horrible. I remember when my trainer was making $1 per mile. Okay, when I started in 2016 and I was running my trainer, I used to look at the Qualcomm and I could see what we were getting paid, what he was getting paid, because I was just a trainee on the truck, so they were paying me hourly. He was making $1 a mile, you know, over the road, OTR. Okay, so the rates that I see now out here are not as bad as they were in 2016. Actually, it got better, because then I remember people saying, I'm not moving my truck for less than $2 a mile, right? So if you do the math, right, and you driving 1,500 miles cross country, right, 1,500 miles times $2 a mile, people were hoping to make $3,000 just to go from, you know, New York to California or something like that. Something ridiculous. People were making $3,000, you know, to go that far. And that's kind of ridiculous, because if your truck is getting $6 to the gallon, you need 500 gallons of fuel. So back then, if your the fuel prices was at about $2.50 a mile, $2.50 a gallon, you're gonna spend $1,250 out of that $3,000, right? So with that being said, now, you know, you profit, you know, $17.50 for that one load, and it probably took you 2 or 3 days to get there, right? So then, you know, if you can do that, if you working and grinding all week, you get at least 2 loads, you make $3,500. You net $3,500 for the week. And that's how loads rent. That's just an example. I know you got overhaul, you got flatbed, you have all these different type of freight commodities in the industry. So who knows, right? I'm just pointing out the fact that that's how things went if you were driving like a dry van or even reefer. That's what the type of money was that you was getting. So everyone's talking about they're getting this and that. Like, it's so subjective that I didn't want to get involved with that, because like nobody's making the same money. All right, the only thing that makes a difference in all of this is that it's a numbers thing. Like, if your truck payment is $2,000, my truck payment is $500, I'm gonna see more money. If, you know, I'm driving flatbed and he's driving reefer, he's going to see different type of money. So it's all about managing your overhead and the fuel costs right now, because I'll give you this. The price of fuel right now being over $5 a gallon, $6 a gallon in some places, and keeping rates pretty much what they were back in 2018 and 19, keeping the rates at those rates, and now fuel prices at $5 a gallon. I'll give you, now that is causing a real huge problem. The fuel prices is what's causing a real huge problem. It's not that the rates are this ultra low situation and stuff like that. So now we have to figure out a way to make money with the fuel prices being what it is and the rates are being pretty much the same as they always been. You know, we're expecting to make the same money when fuel is higher than it's ever been and rates are pretty much slightly lower or slightly higher than they have been before. But rates been fluctuating for the longest period of time. Fuel was the main thing that was causing the decrease in bottom lines, right? So that's, at the end of the day, it's a huge problem. So if you are thinking about getting into the trucking industry, you need to have a plan of like how you're going to enter into the market, like how you're going to enter into the industry by, you know, getting your truck at a decent price. Because believe it or not, the truck prices are coming down now. I'm seeing trucks starting to come back down to, if you're purchasing Freightliners or 2017, 18 trucks, you know, they're about 60, 70,000, which a newer model truck under 500,000 miles, that's kind of like the price point from what I saw. And it's pretty much what I paid for my truck back in 2019. Now, insurance is kind of like the same. I haven't seen any increase in my insurance based on what's been happening with the pandemic or rates or fuel or anything like that. My insurance kind of like stayed the same. It didn't decrease, because before I did see like slightly year after year, I was getting a slight decrease in my rates or whatever, but over the last year, you know, it kind of like stayed the same. So take that into consideration. But also too, I still have the insurance company that I've had for the past 3 years. I've been using the same insurance company, and I will pass that information along to you if you want to at least get a quote from them to see what you're going to get from them if you're trying to get into trucking right now in this current market or moment or whatever it is. Now you can find trucks coming down back more to reasonable prices. Now the thing is, keep in mind that the fuel is still what it is, and you know what I would say to that is, like, I do out and back short hauling, trying to minimize the miles that I run based on the fuel, because I can't run 500 or 600 miles when fuel is this high. So if I'm running 600 miles, and I always $6 a gallon, because let's do some quick math real quick. So at 600 miles, right? And I always use 6. I always use the number 6 as how much miles per gallon you're getting from your truck. I always use 6. I know people got these super duper trucks and they're getting 9 miles to the gallon, 10 miles to the gallon in their truck. But I probably get a little bit better than 6. But to stay on the, I like to have some flexibility with it. So 600 miles, divide that by, let's say my truck is getting 6 miles to the gallon. That means to go 600 miles, I need 100 gallons of fuel. So if I times that by $5 a gallon, I know it's more than that, but let's say it's 5, right? So because it's still 5 being horrible. If it's 5.50 or 6, that's even worse. So that's $500 in fuel to run 600 miles, right? And 600 miles right now, people are trying to pay you $1,200, you know? So $1,200 and it's costing you $500 in fuel. You know, you're not going to get very far. You're making $700 to go 500 miles, which is going to take you a whole day to get there, right? It's going to take you a whole day to make it there. I get it. Some people, they run 11 hours. They're going to make it there in one day, the whole day. But keep in mind that shippers and receivers, we got times, right? If it's not an open window, meaning that you can deliver or pick up between 7 and 6, you know, or something like that. If you have a hard appointment to where they say, okay, you got to be here at 5:30, you know, you don't make it there at 5:30. Now you got to sit there and wait to deliver that load the next morning. You making $700 and idling your truck throughout the whole night. You know, are you really making any money, right? So now you're idling your truck all night. You're at about $700 you're going to make right now. So if you divide that by 2, because it take you 2 days to do that, that's $3 and that's $350 for the day, really. Because after you deliver that load the next day, now you got to look and try to find another load or have some loads already set up. However you guys do it, you know, for those who already have the authority and they're out there on the spot market or whatever, booking loads for themselves, or if you have a dispatcher or whatever the case may be, this is what you're looking at, $350. So why not run a straight through load for $500 and you're going, let's say 125 miles and the load's paying $600? You know, why not run that? Because now you're losing less fuel. Because if you're running 125 miles, divide that by 6, it's going to take you about 20 gallons. You know, you time that 20 gallons by 5. So you're spending $100 in fuel. That'll put you at $500 to $400, $400 to $500 for the day. Not to mention you pick that load up and delivered it in the same day, so now you can do that same thing the next day. You know, that seems more efficient to me, you know, if you're going to be taking these type loads, because if you're making $500 a day and you're working 5 days a week and you don't work on the weekends, you don't pay for your fuel, that's $2,500 a week. You know, $2,500 a week. In today's society, that's no money to people. People are making horrible money. I know this video was all over the place. You can take some of the numbers and ideas. All of these numbers are not concrete. This is just a lot of jibber jabber, believe it or not, because nobody's making the same thing. But at the end of the day, you know, it's no such thing as, you know, not good money when you're making over $2,000 a week, $1,500 a week. You know, there's no such thing that's not good money, like, unless you're living well beyond your means. Don't get me wrong. I want $5,000. I want $8,000, $9,000 a week too. $10,000 a week with one truck. I want that type of money too. But let's be realistic. Let's be realistic. You know, $10,000. Okay, get some government contracts or something, or heavy haul to where you're getting $15,000 a load or something like that. But this notion that people are on the internet saying that they're running and they used to run, you know, and they was getting $7,000 and $8,000 a week consistently with one truck just going from A to B. You know, I went from Pennsylvania to New York and I made $7,000 and all this type of stuff. And now, you know, people are coming on the internet backpedaling saying trucking is horrible, there ain't no money in trucking no more, and the rates are bad and all this different stuff because, you know, they gave these false pretenses and all these false accusations on what the things, on what the numbers really are. I'm seeing a lot of that die down now. I don't see people on the internet now talking about they're making $7,000 a day. You know, I don't see it now. Like they're in hiding right now until they come back out and things get better, and they're not going to be in position to take advantage of it anymore because I'm here telling all these lies to begin with. So, but for the most part, I hope this video does bring a little bit of clarity on the situation and fact of the matter. And if you're still confused, you know, I'm still confused about some of this stuff too, believe it or not. But, you know, I'm staying consistent on doing what I've done from the time you go back and watch my first videos to where I started at to where I'm at now. I'm just trying to maintain some level of consistency to keep moving forward towards more success and more success. So like, share, subscribe, and until next time, see you in the next video.